Hello and welcome back to the Winning Agenda's coverage of Australian Nationals 2016. My name is Jesse Marshall and I'm here with Wilfy Horig.
Yep, it's me and you.
And I think we're going to make the joke again about being here in commentary and in the flesh.
Yes, definitely. So this is the last game, the grand finals, as we would say. Because, spoilers, I won the last game coming from the losers bracket.
Yep.
And this time you're playing co-op. So what's happening? You have 2 sweeps, a shipment, a consulting visit, and a food, I think?
Yeah, and a Jackson.
Wait, is that too many cards? No, that's the right number of cards.
That's the right number. So I install draw 2.
Was this your mulligan or your...
Yes, this is my mulligan.
Yeah, your hand doesn't seem exceptional.
No, I just want to get rid of that food and I want some ice because I don't want to just get mediumed and die. With a 44 card deck with only one agenda in my hand, I think I was a little worried about the danger of medium.
Right.
Because unlike the last game where the medium was somewhat risky because not only was I taking tags from the Data Raven, but I was risking hard-hitting news, I guess I could have double sweep, but I didn't actually have the hard-hitting news, so
right.
I would have been relying on you not taking that risk.
But if I go like medium laundry or something, then it's fairly safe. Medium laundry, like run, gain a credit or something, it's fairly safe, I think.
Yeah. And then if you have networking or something anyway, I just lose. So yeah, I went for a slightly more cautious route, which necessitated holding on to those sweeps for another turn, but
right, but
it worked out okay.
Yeah, it did work out okay, but it did mean that you had to use your Jackson. I think using Jackson in that situation, I really don't like doing. Like I prefer to, especially once you've drawn a second agenda, I usually like to at least save it to do multiple at once. But of course, if your opponent, like if you're in that situation from turn 1, you can't really afford to put it on the Jackson remote. So and leave both your centrals undefended.
Yeah, the other thing about this deck is you don't really want to be using Jacksons too much because often games do get a little bit grindy, and you don't want to run out of deck too quickly. So I don't actually find myself drawing with Jackson all that often.
Right.
So I didn't really mind burning one in that situation. So moneying up here on this turn.
But then on the flip side, it does make it a lot more awkward to use one Jackson to shuffle in only one agenda.
Definitely.
Like having that be the only card that shuffles in.
Definitely.
In terms of density. Yeah, so I decided that I have enough money to at least play the medium and run. Maybe not to go all in on trying to get counters on medium, but at least trying to threaten something.
And I was reasonably happy to see you use the last 2 counters on the Liberated there. I think we did speak about how having some credits left on your Liberated does help you a little bit in combating the closed accounts all-seeing eye threat.
Yep, true. But given that I noticed that you weren't close to having a stable a secure remote set up, plus you had played 2 economy cards, meant that I thought it was reasonably likely you're going to try and hard-hitting use me. So I wanted my pool to be as high as possible. So
yeah, interesting decision here for me as well. I've installed Jackson and drawn. I've drawn a Scorched Earth, a Breaking News, which I want to try and score next turn, and I've still got a food sitting in hand.
Yep.
So I had to decide whether I wanted to pitch the food and then have to use the Jackson.
Yeah.
Or to try and hold on to the Jackson. I did think of Rumour Mill, and I thought also that considering I was going to be scoring Breaking News next turn, I wasn't too worried about you stealing a food.
Yeah, and I think what you did is perfectly right. I think this situation is fairly unlikely that I would have the Rumour Mill, want to save it, and have it even be good. Yeah, I think mostly I just played the Rumour Mill so that you couldn't continue to use the Jackson in future, since I wasn't likely to be able to get into that server, since I currently have no breakers.
So shipment there was good for me, obviously saving a reasonable number of credits up.
Yep.
And also getting rid of the Rumour Mill with the Breaking News.
Yeah, and so now I've decided I have to go in and get the Jackson since it's no longer under the mill.
And there's 15 credits on your side, I think, to my 11. So you're feeling not too bad. You've installed the Faust. You've got a Faust and a medium down.
Yep.
Things are looking pretty good. But certainly for me, also stabilizing with those 2 resistors was handy after a no-ice start.
Yep. But thankfully, on my side, Faust makes fairly short work of resistor.
So I think from my perspective here, the plan was to try and get another breaking news or another agenda of any kind scored, and then have the 24/7 threat live.
Yeah.
Because I have both the consulting visit and the scorched in hand. Yeah. It means that at any point then, if you go to 3 cards in hand, I can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a good example of where having tested extensively against each other, having a little surprise like that in the deck doesn't really work out so well.
I don't know if, in general, I would assume... Like, you can't assume that they don't have Scorched anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, definitely having to be mindful about that was important.
Yeah.
Even though it probably would have ended up the same way, especially since my board position, I think, is a bit stronger than yours. I really didn't have to take that risk at this point in the game, at least.
No. And I have drawn the other breaking news there, which is handy. I guess the thing that the deck relies on a little bit is being able to construct a situation, particularly against Faust, where they have to spend the cards and go low enough that you can kill them. So I've got the second breaking news scored now, but I don't have the ice, really. I've drawn the Prysac, which can help.
So obviously. I think on my side, I'm just mostly looking for Wildside Chronotype.
Yeah.
But I also want that Liberator count down for closed accounts protection. But I do think that, like, as long as I can keep the remotes down, I'm not super worried about that. Like, if you want to 24/7 me, like, 24/7 closed, All Seeing Eye is bad, but 24/7, just one of those is fairly, like, not the end of the world, I think.
And I think because I'm having to, at this point, rely on Consulting Visit to access the 24/7, that is a lot worse for me, because I can then only follow up with one of those tag punishment cards.
Yeah, so I think since I haven't drawn Wildside Chronotype, I've just decided to take money, play my Liberator, take money from it, and get some programs into play before I get closed.
And I think the 2 cards I'm looking for here are 24/7, so that I can 24/7 closed hard-hitting news.
Yeah.
Or Data Ravens, so that I can set up quantum predictive model remotes.
Right.
To actually get some more scoring pressure on you.
Yeah, and
speed the game up.
Yeah, and the Liberator account is good against the 24/7 hard-hitting news closed, because it means that I'll have the chance to... I might have to float tags for 1 turn, but I'll actually have the chance to go tagless before the game ends.
Yeah.
So do you usually try and put the Prysac in the... I would have expected you to put the Prysac in the remote to force me to check it, but you've put it on R&D instead.
Yeah, I think just because the trade of 1 card to access the Prysac is just not great. And I think because you knew I was playing Prysac...
you don't see that as being that much of an issue, since even though it basically has to be Prysac.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it actually genuinely has to be Prysac in the root of R&D, but I think... I've felt like you were going to be going for R&D next turn, since you had now a David in play with your medium, and I only had a wraparound.
Yeah, that makes sense. Although you will notice that I did successfully access cards in R&D first, because I realized that would have been extremely embarrassing if I had accessed the Prysac and then hit QPM.
Yes. And you've then cleared the tag, I think.
So I hit, the Chronotype got hit, and I made sure not to run on my last click, obviously, in order to clear the tag.
Yeah. And I think I was hoping that you would be so keen to get cards from R&D that you would not worry about keeping 4 cards in hand.
Right, but at this point I don't really... R&D is not going to get that much harder to get into over the coming turns, since I already have... maybe I am going in again. But I did. Oh, right. I think I cleared the tag first, and I'm going in again.
Yeah.
For QPM. But since David means I don't actually need to spend any cards.
Yeah.
To get in, it's pretty hard to expect that I would go down to below 4 this turn, I think.
Possibly.
Is that a fast track in your hand?
No, it's a hedge fund and a 24/7.
Yeah,
that's
what I thought. The alt art hedge funds, yeah.
So I've now got 24/7 and Scorched in my hand, which means I don't really need the Consulting Visit anymore, because I also have closed accounts.
Yeah.
So I have all this tag punishment sort of piling up in my hand, things that I don't really want to pitch, But what I really need is data ravens at this point.
Right. So to secure your servers a little bit, so you actually have some time before I hit 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the moment it's fairly easy for me to get anywhere, and I think while you're thinking about your last action, I'm just going to be so excited when it's not ice R&D.
Yes. Because you're now sitting on 5 points, and
Or
one
maybe-
of those points is QPM, which is very frustrating for me because that's one of the sort of easier points for me to score.
Yep, or
in the
maybe
deck.
you're thinking about what to discard. I'm not sure what you did. Jackson, hedge fund, or maybe you are thinking about your last action.
Possibly.
Yeah, you're thinking about your last action because you have 7 cards. Oh no, you're thinking about what to discard. Okay, no, that's cool. Cool as well. You must have 6.
Yeah, well, I only discarded one, so
Yeah.
it must be.
Yep. So, doing the regular thing.
Yep. Putting some no-journers back in. I think it's a hard-hitting use, sweeps week, and
Something else.
probably price deck, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is always a bummer to put trashables back in the deck, and I think that's what I'm considering.
Yeah. So I think you're gonna put in a hedge.
Oh no, I am putting the price deck.
Um.
So is that
What's
right? Is that right?
going
Yeah.
Yeah. You're putting in a hedge, sweeps, and the price deck.
Yeah. So there's only one price deck in the deck, and I think putting that back in is better than having one more random economy operation. It's obviously worse if it's a card that you access, but it's better for me as a card I draw.
Yeah, and since I have no David counters left, it's unlikely that's going to be too relevant. They can trash things.
Yeah. I think at this point, obviously I'm fearing install David run 3 times.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm feeling okay, because I feel like if you go for the Hail Mary fast run to see 4 cards, I'll be okay.
Yeah, but the thing is that I'm still fairly far away from dying in any way other than the Scorch. So
Yeah.
and it's actually fairly unlikely to have the second David, I think, at this point,
Mm-hmm.
given how few cards I've actually drawn. I think I might have only seen like a third of my deck. But yeah, so I think I'm trying. I am digging for the second David. Yeah.
So I think the outs are pretty narrow for me at this point, and it really just revolves around Data Raven and Tax. I mean, well, with most corp decks, when you get into this sort of situation, you're behind on points and you're behind on resources. The only way that you have out of it is if you have ice in your deck that can tax the runner,
Yeah.
or you can force them to make runs that they don't really want to make.
Yep.
Combination of those two things
Yep.
is the
And
best.
you did draw the Raven, which is good.
Yeah. So now I've got to decide where I want to put it, whether it's on the remote or on R&D. So
Yeah.
R&D is a more defensive play. The remote is a more aggressive play. And I draw another card there to see whether I draw something that I can actually put in the remote to threaten.
Yeah, because if you're gonna spend all your time looking for Raven, and then the first turn you draw it, it's somewhere which I can't get in. Like I'm not going to run into. That doesn't seem very helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely it would be better. Like if you had something to put in it, that would be the ideal situation. Would be to have
Definitely.
it on the remote, but with that not seeming to happen. So I can't remember what's in my hand at this point. I assume I have some economy cards, maybe a cutlery, maybe the wrong kind of cutlery. But yeah, I'm just thinking about what to do, which is very useful. I recommend to all of our listeners that they spend time thinking about what they're going to do.
So running and that Data Raven's getting rezzed.
Yeah, so I think I decided I have enough money that I can fight the trace. So I don't have to go to too many cards. I don't have to go down too many cards to access, and yeah, so basically that's the so I decided that it is worth it for me to try and get accesses, since I'm with medium I'm seeing 4 cards.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how many cards you're going to actually in hand. You spent 2, and I think you've drawn once, so you might still have 4. So up to 6 points.
Yep, and so now I think that would be my second action, I think. Or what would I have done? Oh, yeah, draw, run. So I think will clear the tag and then draw, which does put me into hard-hitting use range. But I think at that point it actually isn't so bad, because I can see 5 or 6 new cards with if I just go tag me at that point. if you spend all of your money to do that, then it's not too bad for me, I think.
Yeah. So I've now got 2 closed accounts in hand.
Yeah, not the thing you want to really draw at this point.
No, and the part of the thing that was eating me up on this turn was I've spent 2 of my Jacksons, so if I use the 24/7, the likelihood of me actually getting to shuffle it back in is low.
Jacksons.
Oh, are all 3 there?
Yeah,
Okay, well then that reduces my outs significantly, because I was hoping to be able to 24/7 closed accounts and then still have the threat live through the consulting visit if I could shuffle the 24/7 back in.
Right, but the fact is...
I can't. Yeah, so I have 1 shot. And if I wanted to use my shot now, it's pretty useless because all I'm doing is depriving you of resources that you can build up again before I can threaten you through my remote.
Yep. Yeah, so I think you're thinking about... Oh, so what are you going to do?
So I do 24/7 you also because I'm just going to have to pitch some of the tag punishment anyway because I have 7 cards in hand.
Yep. And closed, and then maybe kill the Liberated?
Possibly.
Yeah, that's the best thing to do, I think.
Because then at least I may not need 24/7 again. If I can force you to run next turn, which it is unlikely, but it's the best of bad choices, then at least I can hard-eating use you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it depends what's in my hand.
Okay, so unfortunately we had a technical issue where the recording camera ran out of batteries at that crucial moment.
Yes.
We're sorry that occurred, but safe to say Wilfy did manage to get into R&D one more time.
But should we talk, do you remember how the game went? Did I just go tag me on that turn?
I don't think it was on that turn.
No, it wasn't on that turn. So I think at that point I might have drawn the networking. Did I play networking? Or I didn't play networking the whole game?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I might have just... I think
the problem for me was that I couldn't threaten to kill you with damage unless you got down to 3, and I was hoping then that you would, once you had the tags, go tag me on R&D.
Yep, which definitely didn't happen. I remember. Yeah.
So then I just had no out.
Yeah, and I think it might have been and I was thinking I really can't remember what happened.
As useful as it is for all of you watching our logo on the screen and hearing us speculate about what may or may not have happened, suffice it to say Wilfy found the extra point somewhere.
Yes, I remember it was an Astro as well. But I will just say quickly that I think one of the primary issues was not being able to build a remote that could threaten breaking news early, which means that I had basically no incentive to spend any resources, like install any programs early, which I think made avoiding hard-hitting news and Scorched Earth much easier.
Yeah. And certainly the first 2 agendas I drew, I think, were food, which was not ideal because it meant that what I was threatening through any remote was nothing, because I was spending my time trying to get rid of the foods and re-sculpt my hand in the first few turns.
Yep. So actually, I remember what happened. I would have spent a turn tagged because between sync I couldn't clear both tags, and then the turn after I think you exchanged, and then I cleared 2 tags on the next turn, and then a bit later I managed to get back in again and score the Astro. I think there was one turn where I decided I would run through the Raven, but at that point I was going to keep 4 cards anyway. So I think I decided that you wouldn't have any more tag punishment that would actually be impactful.
And once I'd forfeited one of the breaking newses to 24/7, I only had 1 left to exchange.
Yeah.
So even if I drew another exchange, it wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah. So at that point, I think if I could keep 4 cards, tags actually weren't that big an issue.
Yep. So there you have it. That was most of the grand final of Australian Nationals 2016. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the event. Big congratulations to Wilfy for winning, and we're off to Minnesota next week for the World Championships.
Yes, hopefully we keep you updated, and hopefully you pay attention to our updates, which will no doubt be plentiful.